At 7:30, that means what? Chit Chat Radio. It is time for Logical Wellness with me, Camille Jones. It is a special Wednesday. Good evening, IG. Good evening, Twitch. This is a super special Wednesday as I have like a whole room full of specialness in here. I am cloning myself, y'all, and I have the next CEJ Images body mechanics in here. I've got Patrice and Hillary and Cassie and Judy and Nikki and a super special guest. I'm getting started early because I need you all to really pay attention to what is going to be said and what's going to be explained tonight. You all get what I talk about when I talk about logical wellness and the power of the human body that is a logical system that is meant to function logically. And I have what I consider someone to be a superhero to me, as I figure anyone who goes through and can endure in gratitude and graciousness trauma in a way that I don't know that I would be able to is a superhero to me. And I am so blessed to have one of my really, really good friends and her husband here who are going to exemplify everything that I have ever said about the power of the body and the power of saying no and the power of holding their own will. So I want you all to really sit down for this because y'all are gonna be pretty blessed. My body mechanics have not heard this story from him yet, and I don't know that I've heard it, but I want you all to get what I talk about. I can talk about it all day, but when you see it, when you hear it, this is what should encourage you to know that our power is right here already. And all we have to do that to acknowledge that power is to just take it back. So I want to, let's see how I'm going to introduce these two to you. So my girl, Nikki, who is one of my very good friends from how many years ago?
About 10.
About 10 years ago. Nikki and I work very closely together. She is one of my new body mechanics. What's up, Micah? She is one of my body mechanics who's about to take this whole thing that we do to another level. Nikki is married to one of my superheroes, okay? And this superhero has been through some things that none of us will ever, probably ever go through or even be able to understand, right? So we're going to get into this real quick. So I want Nikki to have a conversation with me, same conversation that we had before. Nikki is married to Mr. Lou Ruffin. Hi, Lou. Lou's my superhero, and I need y'all to see Lou, because Lou, and you'll see it in his face, has never in the 10 years that I've known him never had an unpleasant affect, never been anything but jovial and happy in the midst of trauma. And people don't get that that's possible. So I'm going to have Nikki and Lou kind of go through the whole history of um his trauma, but I want you, Lou, to just tell us, one, what kind of trauma you've had, in terms of the number of times you've experienced it and what that trauma actually was.
Okay. It's 2021. No, oh, not 2021. No,
2001.
2001. January 20, 25th, got shot at a gas station. Fast forward, and then October 25th, another 25. I got shot 6 times and one to the head. And I can go into depth about that after you
Okay.
guys.
So you all heard what he said, right? So he's been shot not once, not twice, not three times. He's been shot a total of eight.
But they can move and yeah, I tell you,
Yeah.
yeah, I would say
So he's been shot a total of eight times. Most people don't live after one time. Where were you? One was in the head, but where were the rest of them?
the well, the first time in January, that front January, I was at the gas station. You want me just going to depth?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Go right on ahead.
You know, it's funny. I left my. I went to the gas station, got some gas. Went to one of the old. Back in the day, you really had the cell phones like that. You could still have a cell phone, but
Right.
you know what I mean. You could still go to the gas station. You know what I'm saying? So I'm talking on the phone. I see the guys walk past, and I'm paying that to them. I mean, I'm kind of looking nice that day. You know what I'm saying? I had the Eddie Bauer. You know what I'm saying? Look real fresh that day. You know when I think about it. You know what I'm saying? When I think about it, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I ain't thinking about. If I see two dudes, I ain't paying no attention. It wasn't like I was really walking. I don't beef with nobody. You know what I'm saying? Because you never know you're messing with.
Right.
You know what I mean? So someone walked past. I ain't thinking nothing about it. I guess after they saw me, they got in their car because I didn't see the car at first.
Right.
I didn't at all because they were just walking.
Right.
They got out of the car and it had 357.
Oh, Jesus.
Right? So I'm saying to myself, so the Bama comes out with the 357 like that, and then put the 357 right here on my side. His man come and said, man, where the money at? Where the money is, this and that. I said, at the time, I had a $500 money order on me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, man, but I'm at the same time, like, it's two dudes, one gun.
Right.
That's a 50-50 chance. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it was two guns, you know what I mean? Here you go. You know what I'm saying? Here you go. Hey. But it's two dudes, one gun. I'm like, man, you might shoot me anyway.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I might go ahead and get this off. So I get the red. As soon as he looked, I don't know if y'all watch James Bond. Are you a James Bond fan?
Yes, absolutely.
Goldfinger.
Yep.
You ever see James Bond?
Absolutely.
Goldfinger. You know, everybody.
Absolutely.
You ever see Goldfinger? Now remember when he was in the plane, and as soon as he said, "Where's Pussy Galore?" Right, and he said, "Oh," he was like, "Oh, right there." As soon as he went like that, he jumped on him. It was just like that.
Right.
Well, as soon as he looked at his man for the gun, I mean, like with the money, I went for the gun.
Oh God.
You know what I'm saying? So the dude was smart though, because he had his finger. I mean, he had the gun like this, the 357 like this, because I had my finger on the trigger trying to bust it at the gas station, right? So I fall down. I get up. You know what I'm saying? I'm hitting his man, fall down again. I see the gun. This fucking joint on my face. You know what I'm saying? Get up, get the record. Next time it goes like this, I say, zoom's like, pow. Like I'm jumping up and down like Scooby-Doo. Remember Scooby-Doo? You remember before this shit kick off.
Right.
They jumped up and down, then they run.
Right.
Man, he hit me. What the fuck? Jump and hit him. Pop. And I always had a nice first step. You know what I'm saying? So, but I didn't knock him out, but he fell back. And so, I don't know if y'all seen Predator. You ever seen Predator, fella? You know what I'm saying? Predator, the first one. You never seen that? Yes. You know what I'm saying? So you seen Predator, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
did you know when Apollo Creed,
Yes.
right? Carl Weathers, whatever his name.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Weathers.
So when he shot his arm, he didn't shoot like this. He ran the other opposite way. You know what I'm saying? So by the time Carl Weathers got the gun, I mean took it. No, it's a gun. It's a prop.
I was gonna turn the phone
Pow!
off.
It's a you know. So by the time it's all over. I got it on which gun.
Okay.
Anyway, so when he by the time he turned back around, he was all on him. You know what I'm saying? The Predator was already on him. You know what I'm saying? So as soon as that happened, I hit him. So as soon as he fall back, I'm running this way.
Had you been shot by then?
Yeah.
How many times?
The 357 hit the thigh, then it moved, it jumped, hit the groin, cracked the
femoral artery.
The femoral artery.
It didn't hit the artery.
Okay, so it hit so wait, before you go there, I need people to hear that it hit his femoral artery. So not only has he been shot twice already, his femoral artery, which oftentimes takes people out in seconds, has been hit by another bullet. And he's still, not only is he alive, you're still fighting, yes?
Yes, ma'am. So it was like, so when I went, instead of going like this, I went this way. Because I'm running on 395.
You're still running.
I'm still running, but
right.
I don't run in a straight line. I go to the side. So
sure.
by the time he like, pow.
Wow.
Pow. I mean, you seeing the fire coming off that bed. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, man, I hope this joint. So I jump in my truck. drive myself to the hospital.
Drives himself to the hospital with a femoral artery bullet wound.
And so, yeah, it cracked. Yeah, the 357 slug was in the back forever. My wife used to smack me on my ass all the time. once she stops, get the bull out, she don't hit me in my ass no more. So I'd rather have her get shot. You know what I'm saying? You know, hey.
So you were able to drive yourself to the hospital with how many bullet wounds at
two.
that point? Two at that point,
yeah.
right? Mm-hmm. So you get to the hospital and they do surgery, I'm sure.
Yeah, yes? I said, man, look, I just got shot. They take my outfit. The Bahamas didn't get nothing from me. They cut all my shit. I mean, they just blood and feathers and this shit all over the place. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? So,
not the Eddie Bauer.
Yeah, at the Eddie. You know what I'm saying?
Not the Eddie.
Look, the cops. That's another story. Anyway, the cops, they want. I go to get my coat. They're like, oh no, this evidence. What evidence? They didn't get, just like we talking about with
right?
the body and everything. It's like, what you mean? They didn't get nothing. I want my coat. No, it's evidence. You ain't doing that.
So we got that in January, right?
The 25th of January.
25th of January.
2001.
But months later, in the same year, yes. On the same day, you get shot again.
Yes.
Where?
Well, that time, okay. Fast forward, I leave my keys, same truck. I leave my keys in my truck. Uh-huh. Because when they got my truck, I still have my keys in ignition.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I turn off and stuff. But so I get to walking. I'm gonna go see a dude.
When you say where, do you mean where in his body?
Where? Yes. Where? Yeah, so yeah, tell me the story.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I see the guys. I don't pay attention to it. You know what I mean? They come back. Next thing I know, pop. I get shot up, hit up. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, I don't mean to cuss.
That's okay. It's not
to you, boo.
Yeah, that's right.
So I get to running. I fall down. Realize I get popped in the kneecap. The bullet's still in my kneecap because you fast forward with my wife. We
had an X-ray.
Yeah, right. X-ray, and it's in the book. It's in the
patella. It's in the patella. Okay.
So they can't take it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I get to run. It was like a dead end. I said, man, this is not looking too good. I'm going to fuck somebody up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Turn back around, get the wrecking. I see the other guys coming up. Woke up 2.5 weeks later.
Wow. In the hospital.
So when she says, where did you get shot?
Okay. The head shot messed up the right side.
Okay.
Like, I used to be a mover. I used to pick up pianos for fun, and can't do that no more right now.
Right.
But side, it's funny, man. You get shot, that shit's still tender.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm still in pain right here.
Yeah.
They shot this arm right here. They had to what you call it? Break. Like you said, you had to fast forward a couple weeks later. They had to re-break it. Because all I could do was give you a handshake. So they had to break it so I can give you like a 5.
Right,
you know what I mean? Right.
So you can rotate.
Stomach, a graze real close to the heart. I mean, real close to the heart. What else? Altogether it was 6. The head shot missed because they found like 2 different type of calibers in me when they what you call it.
Okay, so before I get to Nikki, I need those of you who are listening to understand what you just heard. And for those of you all who are in this space where you believe crazy that says there is no such thing as natural immunity or natural protection or lymphatic support for immunity, this story makes y'all sound real stupid. Okay, because we're talking about someone who was shot multiple times, 2 different instances in the same year within months of each other. And he ran and drove himself to the hospital and got shot in the femoral artery. And I'm not even freaking done yet. Okay, because what Nikki is now going to tell you is what Nikki's experience with Lou was when she met him, because he had been shot already when you
Yes.
met him,
Mhm.
right? And so when we talk about what the body will do and what the lymphatic system will do to protect itself, he exemplifies protect itself. So when I was talking to Nikki yesterday, she was telling me these stories, and I was like, wait a minute, wait, hold on a second. You're telling me stuff on top of what he is saying. So before I have Nikki start, how many surgeries have you had to date?
Gracious. How many, man? I mean,
I mean, you've had about 4 since I've known you, but he had all the surgeries that he
Before.
had to, when he immediately got shot.
Right.
And most of the bullets, when I met Lou, he still had 3 bullets in his body.
Wow.
And so now he's just down to 1.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you still have the bullet in the knee.
yes.
So you still have the bullet in the knee. And so I'm before I talk to Nikki, I want you all to understand that he got shot in his head, right? And lived. However, he has the most pleasant, like the way you see Lou right now. That's the way Lou is all the time. And he's always got a smile, or he's always laughing or making a joke or being helpful or doing something. Now, mind you, he's still got a bullet and he had bullets removed and he's been shot multiple times. But now I want you to hear Nikki's experience after. So he got shot in 2001.
1.
You met Lou in 2009.
9.
So I want you, Nikki, to go back to the story that you told me when you started to realize that something was wrong with Lou. So so when you met him, what did you think his story was?
So when I met him, the interesting thing is the day that I met him, he's got this disability with his hand, so he can't give like a traditional handshake.
Right.
And so our love story is I asked him for change for a 20. And he couldn't find it. He was so
I
focused
got
on my
put
smile.
yes. That was,
And so my husband is a charmer.
Right.
He really
For
is.
sure.
He
For
is a
sure.
charmer.
For sure.
And so as we got to know each other, with all the disabilities, he's still Lou Ruffin inside. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right,
And
right.
he's just an amazing person. And just, as we dated and everything unfolded or whatever, he's kind, gentle, fun to be around. And so we just clicked. But there are some physical disabilities,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And
Which are? Name those.
Okay. So initially, like when we were just getting to know each other, this story is actually kind of funny. When we get to know each other, you know how you ask all the questions.
Right.
So, I asked him questions like, are you seeing anybody? Do you have a girlfriend or whatever? And it's a joke between the two of us, but Lou really can't answer yes and no questions like, do you have a girlfriend? You expect a yes or no answer.
Right.
I swear, whatever he said, I can't really remember it. But I was so confused by his answer that I had to ask him again the next day. And my girlfriend Desi is on this call and she'll know. I was just like, I don't understand where he's coming from. I don't know if he's playing games or whatever. But now we know, fast forward, that it's really part of his disability.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so, anyway, the long story short, he walks with the limp, with his right side, because of the shot in his left brain. It's his right side is disabled. So he sort of walks with a drag. You can't call it a club foot.
No club foot.
You can't call it a club foot.
Club foot.
He can't use his hand in a traditional way. So you can put something in his hand, but he has arms with his grip and things like that. There's brain fog and memory issue. A lot of pain. And the biggest issue or the biggest challenge that we've been addressing lately is the seizures. So what happened was when we first started dating, he probably had a few seizures, but he was never diagnosed with seizures.
Okay.
And so he wasn't diagnosed with seizures until 2018. I'm skipping. Let me go back a little bit. So he had a lot of issues with pain, like at the beginning of our relationship. And then we got married.
Okay.
And so when we got married, the funny thing is, I don't know if this is part of the disability or not, but my husband is just stubborn as hell, right? He's just stubborn. You can't tell him what to do. You can't tell him
That's that
anything.
dosha. See?
However, what we discovered is a year after we got married, I noticed that in his brain, where I guess where the entry of the bullet, it started bleeding. So you know how when you're doing your cleaning and things like that, he was having blood on the pillowcases like daily. And my
Oh,
husband is
shit.
bald. He was always bald when we met,
Right.
and so he shaves his head regularly.
Right.
And he just thought that it was maybe because he was shaving his head too much. Didn't seem like a logical response because he shaves his head every other day all the time.
Right.
But now there's blood on the pillows and pillowcases. I'm washing pillows and pillowcases super regularly. And I was just like, Lou, your head doesn't look right. And so he just kept brushing it off. And as a newlywed, I'm trying to keep the peace or whatever.
Right.
So I'm just like, okay. But then one day we went out with his mom, and I asked her, did it look right? Because my problem was, my point of reference is, it looks abnormal to me, but I don't know what it looked like from day one.
Gotcha.
And so his mother has a different story or experience because she's lived through it for the whole 20 years.
Right.
And I only came on board in 2009.
Right.
So, okay, so let me back up a little bit too.
Right. So while she's backing up, let me say this. So it's crucial that we pay attention to even things that we think we may just be seeing as something that's not there. If it's different, if it doesn't look right, it doesn't sound right, it doesn't smell right, if something is telling your energy on the inside that something is not right, it is not right. And you have to be in a space where you can then say, you know what? I don't know what it is, but something is off. And I need to make sure that I check that whatever it is that's off. It may be nothing, but if it's different, the body is always going to tell you and show you that something is wrong. And if you see it, just like anything else, what do they tell you in the airport for like sex trafficking? If you see something, say something. If you see something, say something, particularly in the body.
So let me just go back for a minute. When Lou and I first met or whatever, he's like telling me his story or whatever. You kind of got an idea,
right?
He was just explaining it to you all. And so he always referenced his gunshot in his head as having bullet fragments left in his head.
Okay.
Now, I do have a medical background. I'm a licensed massage therapist, but I had a history of medicine in the emergency room in a cardiac cath lab before I became a massage therapist. So, I processed the information he gave me, and in my mind, I'm like, if he has fragments in his head, no doctor is going to go and open up your skull to take out bullet fragments. However, with the chronic pain that he was having, when his mom, and as Lou explains the story, the night that he got shot, the October night when he got shot multiple times, they told his family to get his affairs in order, meaning they weren't expecting him to live. And so I'm telling this part of the story secondhand, so I don't have all of the facts, but
that's all right.
They told them to get his affairs in order. And so then my theory is, if there is a bullet in his head and they're expecting to get his affairs in order because they don't think he's going to live, there's no sense in doing surgery to take a bullet out of his head, right? So, but to God be the glory, he lived. Yep. We're getting ready to celebrate 20 years of this. And so in the process of moving forward to 2013, when I saw all of the disorientation in his head, I'm going to throw a TV show out there, the Gumby. He had like this Gumby look.
And not in the hair, but in the skull.
In the skull.
He had a Gumby.
His head started protruding. And he went to a neuropsychologist. I mean, neurosurgeon. Mm-hmm. So the neurosurgeon took a MRI image of his head and said, "Oh, there's a bullet in there." Like, to his surprise,
bullet.
We don't know. Well, I don't know anyway, but we don't know the story of how Lou could exist for 13 years, or at that point, it's 12 years, with a bullet in his head and nobody knows about it.
So can I put something in there? At that
Sure,
point?
sure.
Okay, so if we're talking about superhuman beings, a superhuman can live with a bullet in their head for 13 years and technically not know it. That's one. Superhuman. Two, advocacy, even in trauma and distress, is crucial because for his family to not know that there is a bullet, and I've seen the picture of the bullet, it is not a little bullet, it's a big ass bullet that he lived with in his head for 13 years. I asked Nikki, I said, wait a minute. So nobody did an MRI at the hospital that he went to see that it was a bullet before he was transferred to another hospital. But if we are not advocating either for ourselves or our families, and a hospital expects you to die, and they decide to not put in your records that you have a bullet in your head, then you get to where we are right now, right? He walked around over a decade with a very large bullet in his head. Yes.
There was no open wound, like there was no.
So I think they knew. I think somebody knew that there was
Yep.
a bullet in his head, but I don't think the information
Was transferred
with him.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's what the problem is. But like I said, that was before I came on the scene. So by the time, kind of like the telephone game, by the time I met Lou, he was called in the fragments. And like I said, in my theory, you're not going to go after fragments in the brain. That's just complicated, unnecessary surgery. And by this time, he's already stabilized. Because think about it, in October 2001, even though they said to get his affairs in order and they probably opted not to do the surgery, he was stable enough to be transferred. So he went from that hospital, and I mean, they did some surgery to stabilize him, but all of the surgeries, like the recovery surgery for his arms and, you know, all the surgical scars that you see here, whatever, were done after he finished physical therapy. So he stayed in physical therapy for how many months?
I don't know, about 3 years, 3 months.
3 months.
3 months, and then still was going there for about years.
Yeah.
So if the hospital that sent him to the physical therapy place decided not to tell, because if you're in trauma and you have somebody that you're expecting to die, right? And he's a black man and he's expected to die, then all of a sudden he doesn't, and he's transferred to a rehab, we can't even be sure that the rehab place had in his record that he even had a bullet in his head. Because why would they complete the records if they were expecting him to die?
Right. So yeah, it's a lot of fuzziness around that time or whatever. And one of the things that my mother-in-law always says is when he went to the rehab place, the rehab facility, they were just focusing on getting him well. I mean, because we see what the power of God is. And so not focusing on trying to find the shooters, not focusing on all these things or whatever, but just focusing on the family rallying around him and getting him well. So moving back, can we move up?
Oh, yeah.
So moving back to February 2013, 14, he went to the neurosurgeon and they did an MRI. And
because you asked.
No, I didn't. Well, yeah, because it was something. Yeah,
right. Because
no. Let me back up.
Okay.
Let me back up.
Okay.
So we've been talking about this this human body and how our body helps itself. So with my husband being bald, he had the bleeding, but he also had white cells around his head, kind of like the pus that you see on your face when you have acne. And none of that looked great, right? So we went to his neurologist, and they so busy talking about RG3 and the Redskins and all this stuff. And I was like, can you take a look at his head? Because that's why I'm here. Who cares about football?
Right.
And so she took a look. And so in the science field, or in the science realm, or the medical field, white cells are a sign of infection. And so she was immediately concerned about what was going on with the white cells in his head. You know, when you see it on your face or whatever, you know, probably your face is not clean or whatever, but in the scalp or in the head, it's dangerous because it could be a sign of infection. So we went to the neuropsychologist. I mean, I keep saying neuropsychologist. Went to neurosurgeon. They did an MRI, and probably because of the same concern,
Right.
seeing the white cells,
Absolutely.
like what's going on in his head or whatever.
Absolutely.
And so, ironically, I was not with him. His mom and his sister went to that appointment, and he had. So the other thing was they told him all this time because of the bullet fragments
Yeah.
that he could not have MRIs. So this was probably only the second MRI that
Jesus
he has
Christ.
ever had, and they discover the bullet in there. So it's kind of like, Eureka, there's a bullet in there. It's got to come out. And so, like Lou always said, you want to tell your part of the story, how you always talk about 3 things?
Oh, 3 things? Oh, yeah, just, well, I was just gonna clean it up. Then they was gonna clean it up. They was gonna, like, what was it? It was clean it up. See,
they was gonna clean it up. They was gonna remove it, or you were gonna.
Oh, the third one was you'd be dead within the year. You know
See?
what I'm saying? Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
See?
you'd be dead within the year. If you don't, if I said, oh, the heck with my wife and what she talking about, I'm gonna let it just hear that thing was gonna. Yeah, it was trying to come out. I think it was
Yeah.
trying. It was.
So that white cells that we saw was literally the body encapsulating the bullet and progressively pushing it out of his head. So that's why you saw the bleeding and
so
all
do
of
you
the stuff.
so understand what she's saying to you. And for all of you who don't believe in natural immunity or the power of the lymph system, the body had a bullet that I have seen that is a very big, it's not a little bullet, it is a big ass bullet that he's been living with for a decade. And over that decade and longer, the lymph system has been encapsulating that bullet to push it literally out of his head. So that is what the lymph system does on a daily basis, every day, including with COVID. It tries to encapsulate and fight off what it knows should not be there. And it was that indicator and that indicator only. No doctor, because doctors would have let him die. It was the body only and the will of his wife and the attention that they paid to themselves. This was not something that doctors required him to get. They had to pay attention to what the body was doing on its own to be able to encapsulate this bullet, to try to push it out of the skull, or he could have very well been dead in a year, right? Very well could have been, but it took them, us, right? People, all of us, we have the same ability to do the same thing. It took them paying attention to what the body was already doing. And when we talk about side effects or the timing that things happen, how long did it take? How many years was that?
That
14,
was 13 years.
13 years for us to acknowledge or even see what the lymphs were doing. So for those of you all who tell me, oh, well, I got this shot or I got this and I feel fine, I don't give a crap. You're talking about 5 minutes later. I'm talking about over a decade later. The body will continue to fight until it can't. So if you can't understand how the body does that, you need to do a whole new wellness circle. So I wanted her to at least say that. So they went and took the bullet.
Yeah, so they took the bullet. And so and then they were trying to identify what the infection was, what was the cause of the white cells, and they could never isolate a bacterial bug. So it was clearly the protection, the body on its part to protect the bullet. So protect his head. So they took the bullet out, and so for 4 months, he had his skin covering his skull, but the area where they took the bullet out, this is such a hard story to tell.
Yeah.
The area where they took the bullet out, they left that space. So the brain, so there's the skin, the skull, and then the brain. So they took the bullet out of the brain, but then they left that area exposed, but the skin covered it. So he had to wear a helmet for a couple of months while somewhere else or whatever, they had measured the diameter of the unexposed space, and they measured him for replacing that vulnerable spot with a titanium plate. So 4 months later, he had another surgery to have a titanium plate to put in that cavity there so that that part of the brain would be protected.
So
Was that clear?
absolutely it was.
Okay,
So
okay.
when I say superhero, like I mean it, right? He has titanium in his skull where there should be a skull. He has titanium in his brain, and he still has a very pleasant affect. If you didn't see him limp, you wouldn't even know he really had an issue. And if you're going to tell me that guessing in this Western medicine is stronger than what we've been listening to for the past 30, 40 minutes, then you and I don't need to have another conversation. So a lot of what these wonderful body mechanics are about to do is have the gift of helping to heal what now is residual of all of this trauma. So again, superhero. But after that, what kind of, his seizures have increased
So
since
he
the
still wasn't
titanium,
diagnosed with seizures at this point.
right?
So what happened was, I was hoping, my prayer was that once the bullet came out, that his headaches would go away.
Sure. Because let's say this, Lou, you've had constant headaches since the trauma of being shot in the head.
Oh yeah.
Yes. And constantly in pain.
Yes.
However, always with a pleasant affect. So, oh, can we say this? Because I want to say this about the steps, because you told me this too. So this is what I refer to when I say we have got to sometimes, not even sometimes, all the time, take our knowledge about ourselves in our own hands. They told you after rehab that you should not live anywhere that had steps,
Yes.
right? Why? Because you may not walk, you may not be able to go up steps. So
In fact, they were going to just put him in a hospital bed in the living room of his house.
Yeah.
Right. So
that never happened.
Exactly. So they were going to put him in a hospital bed because they told him he wouldn't walk. Yet what did Lou do? Lou decided to intentionally move into a place that had steps that required him to go up the steps. And now he goes everywhere, right? They had written him off not once, but twice, and maybe even more than that, until he said, no, that's not going to happen, because I'm going to do this. I'm going to do what I need to do, because I know Lou is not what they say. So when I say, I don't want people to not listen to their doctors. However, your doctors are not your God. They're not your owner. They're not your trainer. You are the only one that's in control of what happens to you. And he is proof of that, right? They'd had written him off a bunch of time. Human will is a human superpower, right? So after the titanium, he's had titanium since what? 2014?
So one of the things that I noticed is he probably had seizures before I met him.
Yes.
But after the titanium, what I noticed, or what I picked up on, was the pain increased. I thought it was going to go away. His headaches. So we do this scale, and I can't think of the word for the scale right now, but when we do pain measurement levels, we ask the patient on the scale of 1 to 10 what their pain level is. And so there have been times when Lou has described his pain level on a scale of 1 to 10 to like 15 and 20.
Right.
Most of the time he lives around 7 or 8.
Right.
And so and then he also has this thing in his body called clonus, where he sort of just shakes and tremors on his right side. His tonicity is very weak, and it could be mistaken for a seizure, right?
Right.
So you really want to diagnose it, just because, see, here's the thing with clonus. Once you adapted that, clonus is just this thing that happens occasionally.
Right.
It's almost like, I touch you and you just shake or whatever. He's accepted that that's what clonus is. And a seizure is all neurological, and is different stages of seizures or whatever. And so sometimes when he was having clonus, he might have been having a seizure.
Gotcha.
And so because he wasn't diagnosed with it, you kind of just accept that that's just the clonus.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying?
Right.
So there were times when he was getting confused in his speech, more so than the typical, I mean, the traditional, like when you got sometimes when Lou is talking or whatever, and I'm being serious, I'm not trying to joke. He's a little confused, and so you got to pay extra attention to kind of pull out the
Sure.
information that you want to pull out or whatever. But there's times when there's brain fog and confusion, but then there's times when he's just like not clear. He can't say his name, he
Right.
can't say my name, he can't say the year and stuff like that. So then there's the whole gamut of all of the medications.
Sure.
And he's had several doctors over the year, at least since we've been together, he's had several doctors. And it's really frustrating when you have primary care doctor and specialists and trying to get them on the same page with the medication. So sometimes, one doctor prescribe the generic, another will prescribe the brand name, and it's the same damn medication. Then he's got a side effect from one, and now they're giving him another medication for side effect with this one, and it can be frustrating. So when it got to this one particular medication that he was on, they were just giving him more and more doses. And that was the thing that was frustrating me, because I'm like, I don't have an MD behind my name, but I do understand some stuff. And I was just like, well, why are we increasing the medication and he's not getting better? And then a lot of his medication, because he's been taking it for so long, he'll just be given the medication for a year. And so it doesn't really have to be monitored. Well, I won't say that they don't always monitor. So, like when he was on a particular seizure medication, you do have to regulate that more regularly. But a lot of these medications, they're not checking the blood levels often, the therapeutic threshold. And so if he goes above and below, if he's not getting a check regularly, they won't know. And then there's outside effects that can affect him, like the bright lights, the heat, and all of these things or whatever. So he ended up going to a doctor to have we decided to go to, I had been looking for, I know I'm backing up with this story. I had been looking for a specialist that dealt with, a primary care doctor that dealt with or specialized in the brain. I didn't find one, but I was looking for a particular doctor, and I came across this neurologist that specializes in the brain, and they gave him a seizure medication that really didn't help. And so I kind of stayed on him about, let's figure out what this is. And so after he lost his father, that was a big trigger for Lou. When he lost his father, his activity, his head activity or whatever, he was really confused. And it was probably just a mix of stress, his emotion from losing his father or whatever. But I mean, oh my God, like you were saying, my husband is a sweet guy. Oh my God, he let me have it. I was like, damn it, I couldn't do it. I was like, who are you talking to? Anyway, I was like, we got to deal with this, right? So, went to that doctor, and I was just like, something is very different about his behavior and his pattern right now. He was trying to take on too much in terms of dealing with his father's healthcare right before he transitioned, and he really couldn't do it. And so, long story short, the doctor was like, well, let's go do a seizure study. So he was in the hospital for a week, and they diagnosed him with grand mal seizures, and they put him on this medication. And then you have to play around with it. So they during that time or whatever, they really did a good job of monitoring his therapeutic threshold or whatever. So he's on this medication, and what was really pretty cool about it was the medication that he was on for his seizure. Initially, they were giving him, how they say, take 2 a day, or 3 times a day, or take 2 pills in the morning, noon, and night, or whatever. That didn't really work for Lou, because he won't remember to take his medications on time. His sleep patterns are off, and so if he sleeps through it and misses his medication, that throws him out of whack.
Right.
So they have what's called extended release. So he takes his pills in the morning, and then he's good through the rest of the day. And the problem was, he's on all this other stuff.
Exactly.
And so he's on one particular medication. So one of the things I was telling you about, Camille, It's like sometimes you're given a medication for one thing, or it's for one particular thing that he may not need. Okay, I'll give you an example. If he was on a pill for depression, the main reason for this pill may be schizophrenia,
Yeah.
but the doctors have the authority to use it for its
Something else.
secondary purpose or whatever. And I didn't understand. I was like, what the hell is he on schizophrenia medication for? He doesn't have schizophrenia.
Pay attention, y'all, to what she's saying, right? Pay attention to what she's saying.
So
It is guesswork, right? It's guesswork for them.
right. So he was on this one medication, and the daily allowance for this medication is 1,800 milligrams. And he had to get special permission from his insurance company to approve 2,400 milligrams.
Okay, so can I just say, I don't give a shit what it is. 1,800 to 2,400 milligrams of anything would kill a horse, an elephant, a bull, pick something. So you're talking about, again, the reason I call him a superhero, you're talking about somebody who has been shot 8 times, once in the head, who lived with a bullet for over a decade, who is now medicated to the point that would kill an animal a ton heavier than him. And you tell me that the lymph system isn't the most powerful thing on earth, right?
Right.
So he, at the time I not met you, but over this last week or so, he was on how many meds?
At least
He was on about 9, but he
9.
took some of them multiple times in a day.
9. So 9 medications. One of the medications he was taking so much of, he really shouldn't be here anymore, right? He shouldn't be here because the medication itself would have taken him out. That many milligrams. And doctors scare us crazy by saying, you can't stop this, you can't stop this, you can't stop this. So Lou, because again, Lou allows his will to dictate, Lou decided to do what this week? Cold turkey. Lou decided to cold turkey take himself off of all of that crap that they said would work. And where is Lou? Lou is chilling here with us in our nice Airbnb while we are doing certification, while we have Chef Ellis cooking our dinner downstairs that we're going to go down to in about 10 minutes. And so when I talk about what we need to do to take care of us, he has decided, and let me ask you this, Lou, before I say that. So you took yourself off the meds. Do you have any adverse or negative reactions for taking yourself off the meds?
No.
None. He said that. I didn't say that. He said that. And he made that decision. And since you've taken yourself off the meds, have you slept better?
Yeah.
Yeah? You've rested better. How have the seizures been? Less, equal, or more than before you took your meds off?
I don't think I've had one ever.
No.
See? Took himself off the meds, hasn't had any seizures. So when I talk to y'all about, because y'all got about 7 minutes before we go enjoy our night. When I talk to y'all about human will and being the purveyor of your own wellness, right? And being your own doctor, I'm saying that. I'm not saying, Lou, don't go to a doctor. Don't have your follow-ups with a doctor. What I'm saying is know what's best for your own health and don't be scared. Fear is taking us out all over the place. Don't be scared of making changes for yourself that would better yourself. So one of the things that these wonderful body mechanics are about to get, and I can't wait until we start working on him, is that they're going to be able to start healing Lou while they are learning how to be these lymphatic frequency specialists. And it's about to be super exciting for us because one of the places you got shot was in the gut. Yeah. So clearly a lot of digestive issues, a lot of scar tissue in the gut, a lot of scars. Nikki and I actually started last week doing a little high frequency on his head, where the scar and the bullet on top of the titanium is. He's had significant reduction in swelling in the head. By the time we're done this week, his scar is going to look almost non-existent, and that scar has been there for some years. He's going to have a change in how he looks and how he functions as we are doing this healing process. But he truly, when I say exemplifies what I refer to when I talk about what the human spirit itself, what the human spirit and the human frequency itself is supposed to look like, is supposed to look like that, right? I'm not saying everybody has to go out and get shot 8 times and get shot in the femoral artery for that to be effective. However, I'm saying that the fear of the post trauma shouldn't take you out of logic for your own body, right? When they tell you, nope, you're not going to walk, you need to stay in a bed, we're going to put you in a hospital bed, that, y'all, would have taken him out. That would have directly taken him out, because it wouldn't have given his body or his lymphatic frequency an opportunity to have to move, to have to do something. He chose in this brain, it not only in the brain, okay? He chose in his brain that had a bullet in it, a bullet, a big one. He used his brain to decide, I am not going to let that brain let my body not work. And because he didn't, he's sitting here with us, chilling with us, enjoying the week, getting ready to really be healed without medication. Are you taking any of your meds now?
I'm just taking my only, but
He's taking a seizure medication.
that's
Okay.
about it. It's hard for me to go to sleep sometimes. So,
Okay.
um,
Sleep medication and seizure medication.
that's pretty much about it. Yeah.
The other thing that I noticed is he, like I said before, he usually talks about his pain level being somewhere between a 7 through a 9.
Yes.
And since he had that frequency session last Friday, whenever I ask him what his pain level is, he's never gone over 5,
Mhm.
Okay. So
which
when
is
she's
pretty
talking
impressive.
about that high frequency that we did, Nikki and I did 30 minutes of high frequency on the inflammation in his brain, right? 30 minutes. And he has gone from a 10 to a 5 in less than a week, and one session, just one. Inflammation in a body that is made of fluid is always a buildup of fluid. But we have a system to balance out that fluid that's called the lymph system. And lymphatic frequency is exactly what that is. We use the body's own frequency to reset itself so that it removes the inflammation that's always fluid, right? Inflammation, we're made of fluid. Inflammation's always fluid. And if it settles in the tissues, it becomes scar tissue. But what I wanted, and thank you, Lou and Nikki, for being on, what I wanted to let you all see is people who have done it, who have been in it, who continue to prove it, and continue to prove it. So I'm hoping that we could get on a live maybe before y'all leave, after we get our hands on him, so y'all can really, see his changes, and see what he's going through, because he's going to have a real benefit here, and it's going to be a blessing to the women, because they're going to be able to do some serious healing as a part of their certification. But like I always say before I go, y'all, it is all about us. It's all about us until we give us to other frequencies to control us.
Wow.
But we've got it already. That's the way we were born. So until you make a decision to either do or not do, you're either going to control it or you're going to give it away. Lou chose to control it. And instead of being bedridden in a hospital bed, Lou goes wherever he wants to, right? We're in Atlanta. He got on a plane and came here with his wife while she's doing training to let us come and actually give him some healing. So, like I always tell y'all on Chit Chat Radio, remember, even those opinions that are not yours are still opinions of those own people. The only people we gotta really worry about is us. Nobody can change that frequency until you give them the opportunity to change that frequency. So just make sure, y'all, that you keep yours. Keep yourself in control of it. Those of you that are on Chit Chat, I will see you. I will see you next week, and I will be in Hawaii. So maybe I won't see you next week. For those of you who are on IG, depending on what happens with Lou, we may see you soon. Chit Chat Radio, have a good one. We will see you next week.